Show.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show Review with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Mezcal, Tiki, Chicago, Austin, filmmaking, writing, and so much more. With today's guest, the brilliant Emma Janzen from Imbibe Online and the author of the James Beard Foundation nominated book, Mezcal, The History, Craft, and Cocktails of the World's Ultimate Artisanal Spirit. We recently sat down in San Antonio. Emma and I have known each other for years as she was a writer for the Austin Statesman here. We talked about life and went back and forth about why this interview had not happened sooner. So finally, we get to sit down, drink some mezcal, eat some tacos in San Antonio, and discuss life. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Emma Janzen.
I think I've gotten so used to being on the creative side and not necessarily, well, and maybe not even that, but like having time to finesse a message instead of doing it spontaneously.
Oh, it's a great point, because you can be in the lab and crafting a paragraph.
Totally.
Right? Does it?
And I do, and I spend like tons of time editing.
Yeah.
Like I'm a much better editor than I'm a writer, so
Interesting.
I spend loads of time like making sure everything is right, you know, and you can't do that in person.
No, you really can't. Some people, though, you know, you have this veneer of a brand for a lot of folks. And the interesting thing is you, having been a freelance writer, having worked for a newspaper, working for Imbibe, and then, of course, now an author, you are your own brand. So there is no message necessarily that you have to put out there, except, like, I'm Emma and I do this thing.
Yeah.
Something that was funny when we were talking about you being on tour for this book. And someone said this the other day, too, to me, about how the press kind of sucks at asking questions. How has that been? How is, as a journalist and someone that's like, I was already there and you guys are asking me this shit?
Yeah.
How is it on the other? You think they're doing a good job, in other words?
It is funny because it does get very, like, self-reflexive.
Yeah.
I actually think being on this end has made me a better journalist because now I ask better questions, especially when it comes to things like books, because I had a lot of inquiries about it that were basically like I could tell they didn't read it and they were just asking very general questions, you know, like
does that
to
make
kind
you
of
feel as a journalist that they're just
get
it in.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy.
Fuck that, man.
It's not that long of a book. You can probably sit down and read it in like an hour or two.
Yeah.
So, I suppose it is a little bit annoying, but it has motivated me to be less lazy.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It's weird. Yeah, I walked into a room yesterday when I was going to do some interviews for William Grant & Sons, and there were some guys in there from Austin, actually, that were journalists, and the stuff they were asking, like, you guys you've probably been doing this for years, but you're not very good at it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what does this taste like? What is mezcal?
Yeah.
What is the most interesting type of question that you get about the book while you've been on the road?
I don't know that I've had that many interesting questions asked. No, I mean, I think, people want to know, like, why I did it. Yeah. I think that's the biggest question is, like, why mezcal?
Right.
When I could, in theory, write about anything, and I do write about, most beverages.
Right.
So, like, what was it about mezcal?
More of those inspiration, kind of what it inspired you. I like that. That's a little more deep. It encourages you to think about it. All right, so we're going to take a step back then. Because I've been thinking about your time in Austin. I didn't realize you lived in Colorado. We just kind of talked about that last night. But the best thing, and somehow the thing that comes to mind always with you, is that you have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
How?
That's funny.
This British heritage, does it surface? Do you still feel very akin to the motherland?
I mean, yes. it's funny because like I haven't spent a ton of time over there, not nearly as much as I would like. But I grew up in this household. And my mom is very British, and that whole side of the family is. And so, I joke like that when I drink, I get a little bit of an accent.
I like that though. Yeah,
it's because.
Latent
I
Britishality or something.
Yeah, like I grew up in pubs though, like not necessarily drinking when I was underage in actual pubs, but events like my high school graduation party was at an Irish pub. Like when I went over to Ireland with my grandmother when I was like 11 or 12. She would go to bed and I'd stay up all night in the pub with like all the people who we were with, and there's music and it's family and it's community, and so I think that's why I get into that headspace.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like already you were born into the hospitality industry, if not literally.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think if you look at that, our family traditions, when we get around each other, we just kind of sit around and drink and talk.
That's amazing.
And like, that's it, right?
I
and
wish
like,
I had that, actually. We do now with my family, but my folks were not really big drinkers, But were you actually born in the UK then?
No.
Okay.
No, so I was born in Austin.
Oh, that's you. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And you moved though to Colorado.
So I moved around a lot.
What was that about? Yeah.
I moved around a lot. My dad works in mental health.
Okay.
Like at the administrative level at mental health hospitals, and so that meant we moved around a lot. There's a lot of high turnover in that kind of a role.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And most cities only have 1 or 2 hospitals.
Yeah.
So so I was born in Austin, lived in Ohio briefly, lived in Florida briefly where my brother was born. And then we moved
how old's your brother now?
So he's like 28.
Yeah, just shy. Yeah.
Yeah. He just had a birthday, so I'm pretty sure he's 28.
That's amazing. So it is kind of like the military brat moving around
kind
thing,
of,
right?
Yeah. Because then we were in Virginia, and then we were in West Texas, and then Colorado.
I actually didn't realize it was so many different places. So, but you ultimately ended up high school in Colorado?
Yeah, middle school and high school.
Middle school and high school.
In Colorado, and then I went to CU Boulder for a year.
Really?
And then I transferred down to UT back in Austin. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I was in Austin for about 8 years before.
So, during this period of which middle school to high school is nice. You have like this nice stint that's not broken. You're not moving around as much. Just makes that kind of difficult. But were you finding yourself pretty inclined to express yourself via the word and the page? Or were there other ways in which you're like, maybe I want to do music. Maybe I want to paint?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been hard to narrow things down, at least in my brain.
Yeah.
So I went to film school.
What? Oh, yeah, it was an RTF major. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the film part. I thought maybe it was the broadcast piece.
No, it was the film part, and I was kind of split during college. I really wanted to do. I was really interested in editing, like film editing.
Sure.
I loved it. I was also really interested in art direction.
Really?
And like I worked in a few art departments on like some local, films that were shot in Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any real big influences aesthetically in the film space? Because we're gonna have to talk about that.
Sure. I mean, well, I'm drawn to people with a strong voice.
Yeah.
So
strong visual voice.
Yep. Tim Burton
was
when I was, in high school. He was everything.
So quintessential Tim Burton, not favorite, but quintessential. What do you think for him?
Oh, I mean, Edward Scissorhands comes to mind. Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah. Beetlejuice. I mean, like that whole period, right? The 80s and early 90s for him. It's kind of
his early stuff was
kind of
really
amazing. Anyone else?
Who else? I feel like I haven't thought about it in a while.
I know. We don't realize these things actually have influenced us aesthetically, and then we go back like, oh, wait, I'm here now, but that was actually watching Beetlejuice in 88 or whatever.
Totally.
That totally changed my perspective on the use of black in a wardrobe or something. You know?
Yeah.
But this drives you so much to actually pursue it as a career potentially at UT. Were you thinking I would like to, or a combination, edit, you mentioned that, but did you ever think about filming and writing your own movie?
I was not so much interested in that whole I'm going to make my own movie thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to work in an art department or work behind the scenes or work with people to do I was less interested in authorship, ironically.
Yeah.
In the cinema world anyway. as much as I was, crafting, like helping make that world come to life.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Basically, yeah.
It's kind of like being the person that's a conduit from a place to a screen, in a way. The person that brings these things to life.
Yeah.
In a sense, like Mezcal does.
Right.
It's this transportative thing.
And it is related, like, to writing. I mean, that's a lot of what I do,
Yeah.
Now. So it ends up being
connected.
related. Yeah.
What did your mom do? What was her line of work? Because I think about your dad and the mental health thing. It's a little more analytical,
So she's also in psychology.
Oh.
In the psychology field, but she's an author.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all making some sense. Then.
So she has written volumes of like encyclopedia style. Yeah. And when I was little, she used to give me manuscripts to like copy edit, basically.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I remember thinking like, Mom, I don't understand what any of this means.
Cognitive dissonance.
And there are a lot of words here, but you're missing a comma there. So I guess that makes sense too.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Talk about people's heads. Talk about it a little more in a creative sense. Here's an interesting question. My mom fancied. She was also a psych nurse, actually, and we moved around a little bit, not because of my father's job, but there was one element about my mom that I'll never forget, and I feel like it's transformed and very apropos right now. Did your mom make you talk about everything? How are you feeling? Why are you upset?
I don't feel like. I mean, in retrospect, yeah. And she used to give us IQ tests. Like, she was helping develop some of these like battery tests for intelligence.
Yeah.
And so she would make us do those for practice.
Like a litmus for these tests.
Yeah. And it never really bothered me that much.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this is normal. It's cool.
It is. Probably is normal.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a complex now because you had to like?
No, I think what it's empowered me to do because of my mom's strength as a woman and stuff, and I don't mind asking questions. I don't mind asking tough questions.
That's
like,
good. Yeah.
You look like shit. Why? Right? Like, I don't have a problem getting to the core of it, and I think you have that same frankness.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit better toolkit, if you will, in communicating with people.
Sure.
Did you ever suspect? Did you ever think you were going to follow in those same footsteps, though? Being an author, writing, thinking about the human condition, people and their passions.
No, I guess not. I mean, I always knew I wanted to do something creative.
Yeah.
And the writing was, it came naturally, right?
Sure.
So I was pursuing film and visual arts and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I was helping my mom with her manuscripts. And writing was always my favorite thing to do in school. So it was just kind of natural. It was a natural transition. Because when I graduated from college, the film scene in Austin, it just wasn't as strong.
Let's say now? What year was that when you graduated, you too?
That was 08.
Okay.
08. So at the time, Texas wasn't doing very well with like tax incentives,
Right.
And so a lot of the big productions were going to Louisiana and to Michigan and
Right. Georgia too, right?
I think Georgia. And so I was like, well, I don't know that I can maintain this. You know, it's like 12, 14-hour days. I didn't have a life outside of those productions, and and it would just be sporadic work. There'd only be one or two in town a year. And so like the idea of not having stable, like I need stability.
Sure.
And so I ended up interning that summer at an architecture magazine. And then I got the job at the newspaper.
No kidding.
So
that's what it was. So just less than a year later, you're writing for the Austin Statesman?
Yeah, like 6 months later.
No kidding. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they assigned you to what topic or what general
So I was an
area?
assistant at first, an editorial assistant. And so I answered phones on the Metro desk. And I put the obituaries together.
Jeez,
and
uplifting.
Yeah, it was fun.
Is that the grunt work, though, when you get into a paper?
Grunt work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like watch the 5 o'clock news and write down all the, like on every channel and watch, like mark down every story that was on every channel and then like send it out in an email blast. So everyone in the newsroom knows what's going on, right? To make sure we're not missing anything.
Sure.
I can't remember how long I was an assistant for, but I was just like miserable. It was
shitty stuff?
Yeah, it was terrible. I put together the film listings, like movie listings, when there were movie listings in the newspaper.
I remember that.
Be like, here's this theater, and these are the movies that are, or like, here's this movie, and here are the theaters where it's playing.
Man.
Yeah. So I got out of that as fast as I could.
But still at the Statesman, though.
I was still at the Statesman. I think one of the reasons I was hired was because I knew how to edit videos.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. Because
were you doing content for web or something for them? Yeah.
So I ended up as a multimedia producer.
Oh, makes more sense.
So I did a lot of videos.
And then when you think about, I guess even in Austin, people don't know of your work, right? Maybe that's amplifying your personality, your persona. I don't know, but they equate you to food and drink. And how do you feel like you kind of got into that particular niche?
It was an opportunity that I was looking at the coverage that was going on in Austin at the time, and in food and drink specifically.
Sure.
They had a drinks blog, but it was kind of like just touched on beer.
Who's doing that?
Patrick Beach.
Okay.
At the time, I think he might still be at the paper.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I met David Allen in the Tipsy Texans, and I took his Tipsy Tech course. Zach and I both took it because we needed, a hobby. We needed something to do.
And you'd already met Zach at this point.
Yeah, so Zach and I met in college.
No kidding. So
he was a film major as well.
I didn't realize that because he went into like finance and now he's into music, which makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah, the finance was just like, I need a job kind of thing.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. It's actually kind of inspiring you guys have stuck this out because your career has been very successful, but moved you guys around a bit. Yeah. But I guess it makes sense. But yes, going back to Dave, I had a terrible run with him the first time I met him. And
really?
We were best mates. Yeah, I was being such a dick. Aww. It's something I'll tell you about it. I was really, really like swinging my dick around. It was terrible. Of course, that is not a literal thing.
No, not.
It's an analogy.
That would be a totally different story.
Perhaps it would. But David and Joe are so lovely and they're so giving. Yeah. They have given the gift of knowledge to us. Yeah. And at that point, you're kind of introduced through the Tipsy Texan class. You're introduced to this larger community of people? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I met people in our class. I think Pam Pritchard was there before the Tigress had opened. She was learning basically how to do cocktails for the bar. Wow. So was Jessica Sanders.
Oh, Jessica was there?
She had just moved to Austin as well.
No way.
Yeah, and so they were there learning about how to make cocktails for Drink Well. Like Mindy Kusan. I don't think I ever pronounced
she's in Portland now, right?
Yes. She's in Portland now. Yeah. She was in that class.
No way.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was the first semester of Tipsy Tech. So there were a lot of, Jason Stevens was in that class.
No way.
Yeah. So it really set a foundation. And I mean, little did she know. That was a pivot point.
It's so cool that you, looking back in one's life or even certain scenes like cocktail scene, you think about a certain place in time. We've been hanging out with Francisco a bit, right? Yeah. And then you talk about Bill Norris and stuff. And this is very Austin-centric. But these guys have had great impact outside of Austin in the hospitality and the booze industry. And, of course, Francisco with Vago and stuff. But you think about one place in time, Rachel Norocco too, right? You think about Fino. Yeah. In 1 month at that place. And you have 5 or 6 of the minds that have set the tone for a whole city's cocktail community. And it's the same thing when you think about taking it with Jessica, Jason Stevens, Pam. You were part of this really special dream. I call them the dream teams. Totally. Totally. And you think if you had not been exposed to these folks or the wonderful teachings of Mr. David Allen and Joe Adler, that you would be doing this now?
Probably not.
So it was the
probably not. Point it was the catalyst for sure.
That's crazy.
Because then I went back to work and I realized I went to one of my editors and I was like, listen, there's this whole culture going on right now. This is really big and we're not covering it. Yeah. And then I went to my first Tales. Oh, when so this
shortly thereafter, like 2010 or something?
Probably.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was 10 because I went to a seminar on Mezcal and Ron Cooper was on it man. I can't remember who else, but I was so inspired. That was the first article I think I wrote for the Statesman.
Really? Was it about Mezcal? What was kind of the nature of the article?
It was, I want to say it was just mostly an overview. Yeah. Like what is Mezcal and it's showing up in bars in Austin. And it got published in the actual print edition. That was my first print story.
That's amazing.
And also printed in Spanish for our Spanish language. Yeah. Insert. Wow. Or it was like a weekly Spanish thing.
That's a great start, though. And
Yeah.
not a coincidental one, but a fateful one.
Exactly.
You know, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was the first, and kind of this is the bookend to this chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What was the reception like to your writing and your coverage of this kind of topic?
It was good.
People were into it?
Yeah, people were into it. I mean, it ended up getting me the column.
Yeah, that's
So,
incredible.
Yeah. And I went whole hog with that.
Yeah.
You know, I set up the Twitter and Facebook and started shooting cocktail photos and all that jazz.
Quite a good
So,
photographer, too.
Thank you.
I didn't realize.
I love that.
I can tell. Like,
Yeah.
some people, they'll take a picture, like, you didn't even balance this thing out. It's like the focal point's fucking all crazy.
Yeah.
But then you got this kind of Kubrick-ish, kind of just centered, real nice way to do it. But the cool thing is now that I didn't realize is you've built this arsenal of creative tools that can help support any project that you're doing.
Yeah.
And that suited you pretty well so far, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
How long were you with the Statesman?
I think I was there, I want to say 5 years.
Wow. That's pretty big in paper, right?
Yeah.
Did you see things shifting tectonically in those 5 years in terms of drink culture and food and everything?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen, each category of drink, right? Because I don't just
You're
spirits and
like
cocktails,
you've got everything going.
beer and less so wine. I'm not very good with the wine stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I think my headspace is already so full with
crowded,
everything
eh?
else. It's like, I can't. But yeah, it's funny to watch. It's funny to watch each one go through different cycles and like different levels of maturity. And most of the time, people in these different industries don't even realize how similar they are.
Sure.
In terms of like trajectories and stuff.
It's like music, right? It's like I'm listening to stuff that sounds like it was made in '85.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But it just cycle, and the same thing with the booze.
Totally.
I don't know what's next. It's not even really worth discussing, but it's interesting to be amidst all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
What kind of drove you to leave the paper?
So I moved around a lot as a kid, right? And my family, they still move around a lot. I mean, they move around more than I do even.
Wow.
And so I'm not used to sitting still for very long.
I understand that feeling.
So, I'd been in Austin for like 8 years at that point, and I was itching to get out. And I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to go to a bigger city.
Right.
I'd always wanted to live in New York. And I always wanted to live in Chicago. Like I tried to go to school in Chicago, but I didn't. I didn't get into the college there. So I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But I was ready to get up there. And at the time, my brother had moved there.
Right, there you go.
Because he went
he's a
to school.
musician, right? Or he works with the label. I can't remember. He's
with Warner Brothers.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
music. And now he's out in LA, but he went to school in Chicago. So my brother was there. My cousin was there. My parents at the time, I think, were in Cleveland, which was
pretty
close by.
close, yeah.
But then they moved to the city too. So I was ready to be closer to my family, and it just seemed like there were going to be so many more opportunities for both me and Zach too, because he wanted to really get back into the music side of things.
Right. Yeah, that's finance will do that to you, I think. Yeah. Kind of rub you out and like, get back to the creative piece.
He hated that. It's just
wearing a suit and tie
he's such a creative soul, and he didn't have an outlet for it in Austin.
Yeah.
So, and he was born and raised here, and I think he was ready for an adventure as well.
Yeah.
So
you guys picked up and moved after 8 years in Austin to Chicago. And how long you guys been there? You said it's like 2 or 3 years now?
Over 4.
Oh shit, it's that long.
This will be our 5th winter.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is crazy, like mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling
Yeah.
because, of course, I'm self-centered, so I think, God, I've gotten older then. It seems like time has just flown by.
It really is.
And I like that, and I don't at the same time. But it seems like you've left a really nice imprint on Chicago already. Vast, and we just hung out together and we visited, and it just even in like a quarter of a mile, the amount of cocktail amazingness that you can get in Chicago blew my mind.
Yeah.
Austin, albeit my first love in terms of a city, cannot hold a candle to Chicago, and I didn't even realize. Lost Lake just alone, it's like, holy shit, this is an amazing thing. So kind of diving in, do you even feel like you've touched even the first couple of pages of the Cocktail Bible of Chicago?
It's hard, and because there are so many. I finally feel like excuse me.
That's right.
I finally feel like I'm in a place where I know people again.
Yeah.
Like I do feel like I'm part of the community now, which is nice because it took a while to get there. Well, and like the whole first year, I basically didn't go to bars. I was like taking a break from drinking and doing.
How dare you?
I know, God, taking care of myself. Who does that?
Fools.
Yeah.
Fools errands. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so like now I feel like I've got a pretty good grip. But even then, I mean, there's new places opening every week.
Right.
You
it's
know,
so big too.
Yeah. It's a really big city, and there's so much amazing things going on right now. And it's hard because unlike when I was in Austin, I'm not a local writer. Like, I'm not a local writer. I'm not covering Chicago. I can only cover so much Chicago because Imbibe, we have a national focus.
Right.
So in some ways, I think I would have gotten to where I am a lot faster had I just been writing about local bars.
Right.
But yeah, I think where I am right now is really good.
So how much of your schedule would you say, like in a year, is about traveling and visiting these other kinds of areas of cocktail hotspots, if you will?
I mean, I try to travel as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime an opportunity comes up, I jump on it. I would say, I mean, for the last couple of years, I've squeezed in 4 or 5 trips a year at least. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I mean, between work and and just play.
Right. How is the culture at Imbibe? Is it something that really fosters your creativity and allows you to pursue these things that you like? And yeah, you can give me a political answer. I see the look on your face. And I love Imbibe. I mean, Imbibe's great, obviously. They're a leader in the industry. I get it.
Yeah.
It's,
no, it is
everybody's got their problems, right?
It is a wonderful place to work. I think I'm at a slight disadvantage not being in the office.
Yeah.
Working remotely is
Where's
difficult.
The
They're in Portland.
They're in Portland? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the office is in Portland. Our executive editor, Paul, is in Seattle.
I see.
And I'm in Chicago. So, like, we do Skype meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I'm just a little bit isolated.
Right. It's not like that newsroom
exactly.
team, right? I would miss that too.
Yeah.
Working remote is a really strange thing.
Yeah, it is really strange.
Like, I've got a job and I've got a team, but like, I don't even know what they smell like. And I know that's weird, but that's really a thing where you're kind of like,
no, it's true.
How do you, how do you really build the momentum? But this is modern, the digital media, I mean, this is how this stuff works.
Yeah. And it works. I mean, it does work. And I think we are doing good work, especially like in print these days. Yeah. We've done some stories this year that have been a little bit more bold than in the past, and the reception has been really great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, again, at the edge, at the forefront of the industry, Imbibe is there. And I am just working desperately to be on that top 40 list or whatever. I'm like, what can I, that's right. What can I do to get a nice photo taken up of me? It's been a while since I've had a nice photo and I've cleaned up, And maybe someday we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you know the right people, so.
You know anybody who works at him? Oh, shit, that's right. It makes a lot of sense that creatively, in terms of milestones and achievements, that a book is a very logical next step in your career.
Yeah.
And Mezcal is a very logical step in terms of how delicious it is and how rich the content can be.
Yeah.
And the people, too, right? Mm-hmm. So when did you kind of start formulate this idea of making and writing a Mezcal book?
Well, I actually came to it kind of backwards. I mean, I mentioned like my first story was on Mezcal. Like I've been following it, getting to know the people, getting to know the brands. Mm-hmm. And the publisher approached me. Mm. Yeah. My editor had read a story that I wrote on Mezcal bars and said, hey, I've been interested in this idea for a while. Like, what do you think it has legs? Like, do you think this could be a book? And I was like, oh, hell yeah. And he was like, do you want to do it? And I was like,
oh, hell, maybe.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that. And I almost said no, because I just didn't feel like, I was like, how am I qualified to do this? I don't feel like I'm, there are better experts out there who could do this.
But are there as good a writers, though? That's an interesting question you should ask yourself.
True.
Because, there's people that, they're wealths of knowledge, but can they really form a narrative?
Well, and ultimately, I said, what my job as a journalist is to, how do you say it? Well, to not fake it, but like discover as you go.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
No prejudgment, no assumptions. Right?
Yeah. So I went in. I was like, of course I'm going to do this. I can't not do this. Yeah. It just felt like it was the right thing to do.
And it was cool talking with you through that process.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got this much done. I've got this much done. What is it supposed to look like? And
it all happened really quickly.
How, in terms of that process, about how long did that take to get it cover to back?
From start to finish, it was a little bit over a year.
Wow. Is that normal for a book typically? I don't know.
I think it varies.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board. Fred Minnick has books on the same publisher, and so
cool.
We were talking last night, and he says he's averaging about a book a year right now.
Really?
I think most people would like to have more time than that, and I know, I ran into, someone was telling me here a few days ago that the other Mezcal book that came out shortly after mine, the one in the UK, I think it's called Mezcal Experience. It was Yvonne. He said he had talked to Tom, the author, like 7 years ago.
Oh, no.
So he started his research forever ago.
Right, and just now finally got it out.
Yeah.
So in fact, just over a year, that's a pretty good turnaround for this. Mm-hmm. And it really had to come out fast, in my opinion, because the questions, embracing the culture and protecting it to some extent, needed to really be said. Mm-hmm. And I've seen pieces of the book, and I've read over people's shoulders for sure, so I'm not going to try to fake this. What is, you think, one of the key, like, every writer has their thumbprint in their writing. Maybe it's ornate and misogynistic dialogue like Hemingway. Maybe it's talking about simple folk like John Steinbeck. But what is, in this book, what is the thing that Emma is pushing through this? Maybe a message that you really feel strongly about.
I wanted to put people there. I wanted to put the reader there with the people who are making it. Yeah. Because I felt like, and even then in retrospect, I would have, you always want to do things better than you did them,
of course,
right? But yeah, the goal was to give the voice to them and not make it about me. I've read plenty of spirits books that are like very much about the writer.
Sure.
You know, and this is what I did, and this is the first time I had mezcal, and like, I'm so cool, you know? And I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted people to get a sense for the place and the culture, and that was my main intention.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, because it's so interesting.
Dude, it is.
And it's such a rich culture, and I didn't feel like anyone was really talking about it in that way.
Right. I think we both have that same passion for the people.
Yeah.
You know, they have these stories, and all I want to do is hear the stories.
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask a couple questions to bring it out, but otherwise I don't give a shit about me. I just want to hear these things.
Yeah.
I'm getting to talk to some of the fine people like the Parada brothers from Rey Campero and Sanchez. Mezcal, you just like, why can't I hang out with these guys more often? But of course, they're in this place, this foreign land that's almost hard. Well, actually, no, it is hard to actually drive to. It's really difficult, you know?
It is. That is a treacherous road. That is a scary drive.
Yeah. I experienced that once with Judah, and I'm like, I think he's going to kill. I mean, I'm all right. I made peace with stuff, but I think we're going to tip off this fucking mountain. But it's an interesting thing, and in a way, it is safe. It's absolutely safe to like go into these things. But there is this essence of peril, right? As a writer, they're going to strange and foreign places. Well, as we sit, you know, of course, it's 11:36 on a Saturday at the San Antonio Cocktail Conference, but you brought some tacos, thank you so much, and I brought some mezcal because I felt it was a suitable pair. Yeah. This is a brilliant one. This is a gift from Judah. He was so great to see him. He's actually in San Antonio. He doesn't make it out to Texas all that much, and we were hanging out with him last night, and we were drinking an Espadín bien picado, overripe Espadín, I think is what that means, with Tobala colas, so some tails. And this is brilliant stuff at about 54%, and I can't think of a better person to sip this with. Salud on this. In your travels, in your chronicling, are there any particular personalities that stick out to you as women or men that's like, I want to hang out with that person more?
Oh man, so many.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So many. Just because it's on my brain, because I saw him a lot this week. Tomás Estes. He's just such a force. Yeah. You know?
It's kind of incredible, actually.
Yeah. When he spoke up in that seminar yesterday, and they're like, you know, the question was, you know, do you think that tequila should have 2 DOs, right? Should you have one for the highlands and one for the lowlands? And he goes into this beautiful, eloquent, like, not rant is not the right word, but soliloquy, right? About how, you know, he wants to promote love and innovation in the industry, and not mass marketing, mass production, and he's just so passionate.
He is a
and
sage,
interesting.
Man.
Yeah.
I always think, and we've talked about this again this week, but I've had the pleasure of sitting down with him for a few hours one-on-one and talk about sex, talk about drugs, talk about music, talking about him seeing Frank Zappa in like Denmark in the 60s and shit, or 70s, but it blew my mind. He's this kind of guy. But I feel like there aren't a lot of people that are actually really like him. He's like Socrates or Aristotle, right? His words have so much gravitas. He was an English teacher. Yeah. He is an absolute command and mastery of the English language. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's true. I feel that about Tomas. Yeah. And he's a very special person. And how do you feel about just this gamut of personalities that are in this mezcal industry?
I mean, it's wonderful. Yeah. It's so wonderful. And because it's not, I don't know how to put it. It's not like an American spirit category where...
Right. Whiskey is those guys are kind of a certain way. Now, there's obviously some amazing women doing it too, but there's still... Whiskey's kind of a certain thing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ego in American spirits without the same soul.
That's right.
And when you talk to mezcal people who are involved in the industry down there, they have that. They are that culture.
Right.
Well,
the spirit, it's interesting is that whiskey is really a status symbol. Yeah. Not all of it. And of course we meet people that are very passionate about whiskey.
But I do feel like increasingly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But mezcal is the people themselves.
Yeah.
It is their blood and sweat and tears and love in a bottle.
Yeah.
When you're making amazing bourbon, obviously it's industrialized. The human factor is not as personal and intimate as it is with mezcal. So I think you get people that are true artists that you can talk to them about their art. And they feel that way, right? Like creators and lovers and just very passionate folks, yeah?
And that can sound, and I agree. I think when I say it out loud, sometimes it sounds a little pretentious.
You think?
Kind of. Because it is also like, I don't know. It's part of who they are, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like, oh, we're making this because we're artists.
Right.
That's not what it is.
No, you're right.
They're making it, and it is beautiful because that's what it is. Because of the way they're doing it.
Right. You're absolutely right. They're not sitting in front of a canvas to create something.
Right.
They merely are creating something.
Yeah.
It's like being a musician or playing music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, no, I live and breathe music. I don't care if you listen. I don't care if we talk about it. I just have to do this thing. And for them, it's second nature.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty interesting road. Did you enjoy the travels and all the interviews and getting all that info?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I want to do it again.
Of course.
Like, I don't feel like there's never enough time, right?
Yeah.
But, I would love to. I'm trying to get back down there, trying to figure out what projects I can be involved with that can continue to, document and promote and preserve their culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is there's a twofold purpose, a twofold value to the book. Obviously, there's plenty of information. You're covering lots of people. But I think now more than ever, a woman's perspective, a powerful woman in a really male-dominated industry, agave is typically. Now, there are some amazing female mezcaleros, but few and far between comparatively. I'm not saying you have a responsibility, but you now are in a really powerful and important position to show that this industry is about knowledge and love and acceptance, and it doesn't have to be male-dominated. Do you feel any responsibility or any weight of that, having done the book now?
I don't feel so much of it being a responsibility or like a weight in any way. It's more so just what I do. You know what I mean?
It's just like a mezcalero in that sense, right? I'm not thinking about it. I just have to do this thing. This is
and finding female voices within that culture as well. When I was writing the book, I was like, well, I wanted as many perspectives as possible, and maybe it was even less so about gender so much as it was about different perspectives,
diversity and stuff.
So I talked to the distributors, I talked to the actual mezcaleros, I talked to their, the brand owners, the all of the people who are involved, because they all bring together a different piece of the tapestry together.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I like that because I don't know, it's just unbiased. You're really like a documentarian in that way. Mm-hmm. Here's the camera. I'm just going to put as many different kinds of people in front of it as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to get a full picture.
Yeah. And I think that some people probably would take it in a different way and not want to paint a full picture. They're very probably dogmatic about it.
Well, and I do feel like a lot of spirits books are just about the drink.
Right.
And not about necessarily what goes into it.
Yeah.
So
the reception for the book and the popularity and doing the book tours and stuff, this being new stuff for your career, pretty content with it thus far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been good. The reception has been pretty good. It's always hard to gauge. Everyone's like, "Oh, I loved it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but did you?" And I've given books to some of the people, who helped me, with interviews and helped me put it together. And I'm like, okay, honest feedback. Give me honest feedback. And they're always like, yeah. And then they never do.
Dude, it's hard.
So, yeah. And I get it. I mean, that's hard. I guess for some people, it's hard to say.
Should it be?
I don't know.
Can you be honest with me?
I mean,
No, really? Well, maybe not.
I love giving feedback.
Yeah. I think it's important.
I love critiquing stuff, and because I want my work to be better, right? That's like,
how do you get better
feedback.
If you operate in a bubble, how can you ever get better?
Exactly.
And you could say it's art, but some of these mezcals could be better, in my opinion, of how my palate is, right?
Sure.
But it's just an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
I know that we've been talking about cider a little bit too.
Yeah.
Perhaps as a new project for you. Is this maybe book number 2?
Hopefully. I'm really into it. It's the same core. It's the same essence that drew me to mezcal is drawing me to American cider right now.
Yeah.
There's a really cool story happening with producers who are looking at what's available in the cider world and saying, most of this is crap and we want to make something better. Sure. And cider, there is a history of cider in America.
Absolutely.
That a lot of people don't think about or know about or anything.
Right.
And so there are amazing producers who are doing things like working with heirloom varieties of apple, trying to bring back these kinds of apples that were used to make cider.
Right, like they are still in France.
Yes,
right? So
exactly.
I learned something interesting the other day when I thought about you, because I didn't realize that apple being American is apple pie. That sentiment, right?
Yeah.
That actually drove the older varietals of apples out. Because you're like, oh, pie, we got to make pie. We got to go the sweeter version.
Yeah.
And thus then you miss all the nuance and all these different varieties. It's an interesting story to dive into.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of the ciders that are out there these days are not super interesting and too sweet. And it's because they're using baking apples.
Yeah, right.
Apples that are not intended to make cider.
There's no funk.
Right.
You need some funk sometimes.
Totally.
You get that. You go to Normandy and whatnot, and you get some funk.
Yeah.
Is it a green light on the book, or is it still pitching it?
It's still in limbo. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I that's my goal for this month, is to kind of rejigger the approach. I think it needs a little bit tweaking. I want to do the photos again. So I feel like that's part of the deal for me.
Yeah, that's
I did all the photos for Mezcal, and I like doing that almost more than writing.
Well, it saves some money too, if you think about it.
Saves apparently a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah. So
photography isn't hard if you've had practice.
And I've been working on it for forever. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I took a photography class in high school, and I've been shooting since. So
it's amazing.
It is a process.
All in one. You're like a one-man band.
Trying.
One-woman band, yeah.
Trying to hold it together.
Well, so I got 2 questions left for you, and this was probably a whole lot easier than maybe you thought it was. And I know, what's cool is like...
Yeah. This is fine.
It's like, okay, no, it's good. It's like when you first get on a plane, you're like, is this takeoff going to be rough? It's like, shh, okay. All right, we're good. I think about, and I ask everybody on the show this question, and let's say you're sipping this exact mezcal, this bien picado y tobala, anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where, but you can have a conversation and sip this mezcal with any person living or deceased, who might that be?
Well, I think my favorite thing to do when it comes to drinking, is going back to that sense of place thing again.
Yeah.
I want to be in the correct context.
Of course.
So I would like to be out at the palenque.
Yeah. Anybody in particular?
With the maestro, obviously.
Any of them?
Who made this one?
Oh, this is Zacalino.
Okay, yeah. He's
That'd
such a character.
Dude. He's
so
the Lee
wonderful.
Marvin of Mezcaleros. That's how I look at him. Like, kind of rough and chiseled.
Yeah.
I have a picture with him that I will never forget.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is going on the wall kind of thing.
He's a very, like, no bullshit,
Fuck, no shit, man.
but really interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't have to
Super
talk
smart.
about his achievements. He's just
Right.
lived it.
Yeah.
Very virile guy.
I like him.
Having kids like into his 50s and stuff. You gotta
Yeah,
love that
seriously.
too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, then the last question, of course, you can start working, at least rejiggering, as you said, the cider book and this Apple focus.
Yeah.
Anything else on the horizon for you here in the next few months?
What am I doing? Yeah, I'm rethinking the cider thing. I'm trying to think about a few other ideas. I'm going to start shooting photos for bars.
Oh, cool.
Cocktail photos for bars.
Yeah.
Going to try and get into that in Q1, as they say in the business world.
Of course.
I want to, I work from home, so I want to get out a little bit more and kind of strengthen my relationships in the Chicago scene, and then, but also like keep my skills sharp. So I want to do that. And I think this year I want to keep Imbibe web going strong.
Yeah.
But also make sure I get enough creative side projects, because last year was a very dry year on the side projects
It's like
side.
really, really hard because you got to be creative, you can tell.
Yeah.
If you don't, you probably burst.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. I'm glad we finally did this. I'm glad we had some tacos, some mezcal. And it's a really beautiful day on. Hopefully we'll enjoy the rest this weekend. So it's great catching up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. Talk soon.
Yep.
Well, there we have it. The brilliant Emma Janzen, a creative mind, a great writer, and a wonderful friend. It's great to see her work finally being recognized in such an amazing way. This passion for mezcal that we all share is captured perfectly now in the James Beard Foundation nominated book, Mezcal, The History, Craft, and Cocktails of the World's Ultimate Artisanal Spirit. We get to talk about all these kinds of things, in San Antonio, and I've known Emma for quite some time, and it's great to finally hear the story and where this inspiration for spirits comes from for food and just for writing. She is a pure writer, and it's very refreshing to see in this social media-laden era. So, Emma, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. I can't wait to see you and Zach in Chicago very, very soon. And thank you for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how heartbroken you were to watch the series finale of Parks and Rec, or if you're thinking, man, J.P. Getty was really kind of a dick, and you guys should watch All the Money in the World, great movie, please do think